everybody, Katie Lance here, founder and CEO of Katie Lance Consulting and the Get Social Smart Academy. And you guys, I'm so excited. We have a really special interview in store for you today. I'm so thrilled to be doing our Get Social Smart Academy Spotlight this month with someone I have known for quite a long time online. We have met up at various conventions, and Jen Sylvester is in the house. For those of you who do not know Jen has been a licensed realtor since 1996. She joined RE/MAX in 2004. And over the past 25 years, she has helped over 600 families move in and out of the Plymouth, Massachusetts area. She has a passion for video, technology, and loves discovering new ways to better serve her clients and be more efficient and innovative in her business. She lives in Plymouth with her beautiful daughters, Caitlin, Chloe, and is a devoted band, softball, and Comic-Con mom. And in her free time, she does her best to impersonate someone who knows how to golf. So welcome, Jen, to the show.
Hey, Katie, how are you?
I am so good. I'm so happy that we finally get a chance to sit down and chat. This is going to be fun.
I know. This is fantastic. It's almost a little surreal.
I know.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to chat with you because I've known you online for quite some time. And then you recently, over the last few months, joined our academy, and I've just gotten to know you better. And I just thought, every month we do this series where we interview different folks in the real estate industry. And I thought, you know what, I want to chat with Jen, and I want to just, tell your story a little bit and chat with you about marketing. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for people who don't know you, can you give us a little bit of a backstory of like how you got into real estate and, what does your business look like today?
Yeah, absolutely. So my backstory is probably a little bit different. I know a lot of people say, oh, they got into it because their parents had businesses or they were in the construction business and whatnot. And that is not my story. So right out of high school, I started college. Like, parents want me to go to school. Okay, fine. That lasted 3 months. Dropped out and joined a band. Thought I was going to be a musician. So I did that for 5 years, recorded some albums, played the piano. And after making $0 out of that venture, I said, I got to get a real job. And I was working at a retail establishment here in Plymouth. And a gentleman says, you should get your real estate license. I said, what, real estate? I'm renting a 300 square foot apartment. What do I know about real estate? I said, well, I've got to do something with my life. I got to, find a path. So I got my real estate license. 6 months later, I quit that job, the retail job. And here I am 25 years later, haven't looked back. And, over the course of time, going from someone that didn't know a single thing about real estate and just courses and self, education and just really diving into I've just fallen in love with it. Absolutely fallen in love with it. I got into my video journey, probably, I've always been interested in video photography, joined BombBomb about 8 years ago. Matter of fact, I looked yesterday and I've done a little over 1,900 one-to-one videos in BombBomb, and which kind of creeps up on you. Like, I said, I've done a few over the years and I'm like, holy cow, it's like almost 1,900 videos. But I hadn't really, ventured into the world of organized social media and video, but have always been interested in, in doing that and doing it from a relation, building aspect. I joined Brian Buffini in the Buffini Coaching Company right around 2004, 2005. Very much clicked. And actually I started following you, shortly after I got into RE/MAX and started going to the events and seeing you and so forth. And just, it just, the cohesiveness kind of, fell in line with the way I do business. So it's been an interesting, very, very interesting journey.
That's great. That's great. So that's a great segue to kind of talk a little bit about your journey, because I feel like I've just gotten to know you over the years through social media. I mean, I know we've connected at conferences, but you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. And so that's the beauty of social media, right? Being able to keep
Absolutely.
in touch. I feel like I've seen your girls grow up over the years and, softball and just all the things that they're involved in. I feel like over the last few months, I mean, shameless plug, I know part of it, you joined the academy, which is exciting, but I feel like over the past few months, it's just really been exciting to like see things like really I don't know, boom for you. I mean, in terms of video. And I don't know if I'm just seeing you more on video. Maybe I don't know, maybe I'm paying more attention. Maybe you're just popping up in my feeds more, but tell us a little bit about that journey. Like what got you on that path and how is that helping your
Absolutely.
business?
Yeah. So, the thing is I've always wanted to do and always believed in video. Michael Thorne, Jesse Peters, big inspirations, I've talked to them
We love them
and
here.
they're fantastic. They're just great humans. Right. And so, I solely with my soul, believe in the power of video and what can be done. So I'd play with it, and not really commit to it. So I'd post a video here and do a listing video there. And it just was kind of, this checkerboard kind of situation. And
That's a great analogy.
it's just kind of, and what's funny is, I would sometimes see it because when I would do the BombBomb videos, the one-to-one videos, I would have a situation. Matter of fact, this happened to me last week where, I had someone that reached out to me I got a cold lead from the remax.com website and, okay, looking at a particular property, and just a regular cold, internet lead.
Yeah.
And I sent them a video. And I, it told them who I was. Hi, Jen Sylvester, if there's anything I can do. And this property is under agreement because it's 24 hours later, everything's under agreement. And so, so I sent that video out and I sent them a little bit of information and whatnot. Well, fast forward, like it's probably literally, I think it was like a month later. I get this phone call from the gentleman. This was like just a few days ago. And he says, we talked to a ton of agents. We called on other properties and interacted with other agents. And you're the only agent that sent us a video. And from that video, we felt like we knew you and we felt like we could connect with you. And we felt they could feel my like authenticity and we connected. And now they're my client. Now I've got them pre-approved and we're out, house hunting. And that has happened to me time and time again over the last 8 years. And so I knew that it works, but I just was like, I just couldn't get. So the problem is I'm very type A. I love my systems and I love my organization.
Yep.
And for the long, I'll spend 8 hours preparing for something that is 10 minutes, which is insane, right? And I feel like I've spent my entire career preparing and preparing and then preparing, and I have spent an embarrassing amount of money on equipment and training. Like I could do this stuff blindfolded, but I couldn't pull the trigger. Mm-hmm. And so I have been following you for years and years and, and have seen success in your academy. And I said, you know what, I have a coach epiphany. I said, but I need, you gotta, everyone needs a coach. You can't go it alone. If I had known what I know now back in 1996, that would be probably the first thing I would tell myself, get a coach, get a system, get a coach. And so, the reason why I signed on to the academy is because I needed a system. I need to get organized. And when I signed on in November, I was doing my business plan anyways, for the following, for the first quarter. And, I said, you know what, I got to get serious. This is something I believe now is the time. And I buckled down in January, the first week in January, I posted my first evergreen video and it's been 21 weeks. And so as I posted in the Academy Facebook page, I got my first lead a couple weeks ago from video. I mean, that was like, I was literally, kids are like, what is wrong with you, Mom? Like, I'm like, woohoo, woohoo. Like, I know it works. Like, I know it works, but it actually like, wow, proof, right?
Yeah.
And
when it happens to you, it's like, wait, it really does work.
It really does work. Like, it's like, wow, truly, right? It's like the infomercial, right?
Right.
And so, it
slices, it dices.
It slices, it dices, it actually will buy a home from you and not go to someone else, And that was the thing is that I kept hearing time and time again that people, the leads that the agents that were committed to doing video on a consistent basis, and that's probably the one thing that I wasn't doing was this, it's not the fanciness and it's not, how am I editing and how am I shooting? I went from a DSLR camera to my iPhone. I've got, like I said, an embarrassing amount of equipment, thousands of dollars. I don't even want to tell you. And my iPhone 11 Pro is phenomenal. And, you know, with good lighting, good sound, of course, but all that doesn't matter if you don't post it regularly, you know, and that was the thing. And so when this client went and, you know, living in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and the video came up, my video came up. And then the next thing you know, they said, oh, we're binge watching. We binge watched all your videos this weekend. I'm like, oh, that's like awesome. A little bit verklempt, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh,
you've got a fan.
One, but I'll take it.
That's awesome.
They want me. They want me. And and not only that, but it's not just a lead. And Michael Thorne and Jesse Peters were talking about this at their boot camp last week. It's not like you can get a lead from Zillow, and then you can get a lead through video. And you know, the video lead and the quality of the lead, like they're thanking me when they ask me questions and they're, you know, I answer their questions. You know, it's not, yeah, whatever. Okay, we'll go talk to this other agent.
Yeah,
there's weight to that, and they're thanking me for that information at the time. So it's definitely consistent, but it's not your imagination. I have there's a method to my madness for sure. You know, as far as that's concerned. So yeah.
Well, I think the lesson here is that it takes some patience also too. You know, I mean,
absolutely.
You have been over the years, I've seen you active on social media and posting video, but the fact that you committed to, all right, once a week, I'm going to roll out a video. And, you know, you mentioned the word evergreen, which is something we teach a lot for anyone listening who isn't familiar with that. Evergreen is this idea of putting out content that is relevant today, but it also could be relevant 3 months from now, 6 months from now, which sometimes is a little bit challenging with real estate because a lot of real estate is in the moment, what's happening right now, what's going on in the market. But, you know, I've noticed with you having that balance of things that are timely, but also things that are timeless, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And I love that your videos aren't just real estate related. You talk about tech. You have the funniest video. I think it was like a hamster or something that you that just made me laugh. I mean, you really infuse, I feel like your personality into who you are, you know?
Well, you know, the thing is that, you know, I hear, you know, time and time again, like a lot of people, you know, gosh, I gotta be, and I fell into this trap of, you see the producers, the people that are out there doing the big videos, and you say, gosh, you know, how do I be them? Like, and the picture is just huge. Like we were talking about before, it's like, I want to climb out Mount Everest, but 50 pounds overweight and like no stamina. Like, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And the first thing is, you know, number one, they're on a different chapter than we are. Like, so the person that has never even hit record, they're on chapter 1. Michael Thorne, Jesse Peters, you are on chapter 30. You know, maybe I'm on chapter 15, you know, or something of that nature. But the trap is that I think a lot of people look at that, myself included, say, gosh, how do I go from chapter 1 to chapter 30? It's like, doesn't work that way. You got to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the other thing too, is that there's only one Jen Sylvester. There's only one Katie Lance. And so like, and you know, the neighbor, the agent down the street, they want to do videos. I used to think like, oh my gosh, what if they do a video about the hamster video, just like me? Like, what's going to happen? They're going to steal my business? No, because their personality is entirely different. And when you embrace the fact that you are who you are, and that's what you should be, you shouldn't be somebody else. Then it's like, okay, so I'm a goofy person. Like, I'm serious when I need to be serious, but I don't take myself serious, right? So my dad and my daughter, you know, she got this hamster and she's, I want to build this cage, this whole thing. And my dad came over and he's retired and he's, you know, woodworker, and he did this whole thing. And I'm like, I got to do something. And I'm like, I should do a listing video on this hamster cage. So I'm like, why not? I think it would be funny. So, but that's like my personality.
Yeah. And it was hilarious. We're going to link that below so you guys can watch it.
You know what? Hobbs will live in, was it perpetuity? Like
Yes,
he's gonna live forever.
Yes, yes.
He's a superstar. He doesn't even know it. But I think that is key. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It kind of mixes things up. So, and I kind of do the same thing with the home tech. You say, well, what is real estate and listing videos, and then home tech. I hear a lot of people say, well, geez, you got to focus on one thing or the other. Well, I'm a total geek.
Yeah.
I have over 65 embarrassing to say, 65 smart home devices in my house. Like I'm a nerd with, I'm a nerd with this stuff, Katie. I'm a total nerd with this stuff. And it fascinates me. And I'm like, you know what, this is something that is it going to help me get a listing? Probably not, but it's who I am. And if I can attract the nerd or the geek, you know what I'm saying? Like those are my people that I can relate to, then they can come into my space, and it's who I am. So, so that's kind of the goal.
That's great. That's awesome. So as you think about your content, do you have like a calendar you use? Do you plan everything out, or do you have a plan but then change it depending on what you kind of feel like? Because I feel like that happens a lot of times too, or you've got a plan and you're like, I'm not really feeling that, so I want to change
all the above. Yes, all of the above. So I literally copied and paste your Google Calendar, and so in the sense that the structure was like right up my alley. So I just use Google Sheets.
Yeah.
I did plan for 52 weeks, but I set aside time, every month at the beginning of the month to review that month to make sure that it's timely. And sometimes I'll move, and I know you've talked about this, you just, sometimes it's like, best laid plans, all of a sudden things shift and it's like, I'm not feeling it. Yep. Or not for nothing, I do video batch recording, which is huge component. Like that was one of the things that I put in motion that helped me get to that 21 videos. And I think I've got probably 6 videos in the can, so to speak, ready to go,
yeah.
that I can, it is so great. So great. But sometimes it's like, oh, you know what? I've got this, I still get to do the editing, but I'm like, I've got appointments and I don't have time, but I can roll this one out super quick and it's ready to go. So then you just kind of switch it on the calendar and you kind of shuffle it around and whatever. But I definitely use Google Sheets to plan it out. The other thing too is that when I use the planning, because I kind of hit on 3 different areas of content on my YouTube channel, mm-hmm. I make sure that I color code it so I can just make sure that it's balanced. So I'm not like, home tech. It's like, no. I want to sprinkle like the real estate is my core, real estate and community, which the community has gotten probably the best engagement. I've got the first video I put on my YouTube channel. We're talking 6 months. It was not a great video. And I looked this morning, it's like almost 700 views. I'm going, 700 people have looked at, like, who are these people? Like, I'm like, holy cow. Like it's probably one person going, play, play, not me. But, but that definitely has more engagement.
Yeah.
But to your point about the evergreen, my goal there is it's like all these things that we take for granted. Every time somebody asks me about Title V, which is a Massachusetts specific septic system situation, like, I get time and time again, people will buy, I'm like, I'm just going to do a video on it. And the whole idea too is I know you talk about a lot about repurposing is, yes, I'm making these for YouTube, but I'm also going to I also take the links and I include them in a form email for buyers and for sellers. So say, hey, this is Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, here's this reference material, that you can use. But as far as the systems, Google Sheets, I use Trello for my creative planning process, to kind of, give me an overview and also handle all of my ideas coming in to the pipeline.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
So for someone who is on, just kind of listening to this going, well, that sounds great for you, Jen, but I just don't have the time. Like, I just don't know where you find the time. I hear this all the time. I don't know where you find the time. We have a lot of folks who are solo agents listening, and they're wearing every single hat. What advice do you have for them?
Oh, yes, okay. So set the stage. So I'm a solo agent, 2 kids, one's in college, one's going into high school. Okay. It's a busy life.
Yeah.
It's like my life is stacked, like everyone else is, like, softball and all the different things. And my high school is trying out for a cappella and all this kind of stuff. It's crazy. Time blocking. Time block. That is the key. So I use Google Calendar, to manage my schedule. I put everything in Google Calendar, not my transactional stuff. I'm talking about, appointments, and I treat my video as a marketing tool, like top notch. Like, this is a proactive activity that requires attention, like, proactive attention, not something like, oh, I'm going to get to these transactions first and then do the video second. But this is something that is prioritized, because these are seeds that we're going to plant that will harvest in 6 months, 9 months, a year from now. We've got to plant those seeds. But what I do is I've broken down the process into chunks. So I'll, like, once a month, because I have the planning calendar, once a month I'll sit down like you do and get, do myself, set up all my equipment. I don't have a studio. I use my office and I set up my lights and all this kind of stuff. And I do it once a month. And prior to that, I schedule time to research. So I do a lot of research with my videos to make sure that I'm recording the right videos, but also like keyword research, all that kind of stuff. I do that ahead of time and with an outline. So, once I have the outline, then I just schedule time. It's usually every Wednesday. Wednesday seems, especially now where the end of the week, properties are coming on the market, we're busy showing, and then the end of the weekend, we're negotiating. So it's like the middle of the week seems like the best time to kind of chunk out that creative time. So I put it on my calendar, and it's like 1 week is batch recording. The next week is research. The next week is editing. The next week is planning. And it's like, I just chunk that time. Now, if something comes up on a Wednesday, I just take that time block. I don't delete it. I just move it to a different day or a different time. But I think that's probably been the most incremental thing to actually sticking to the schedule, allowing for the consistency, is just making sure that you schedule it, which is hard, which is really, really hard, because life happens. But I think that, and just chunking it down into manageable steps.
That's great.
I hope that's what you were asking. Yes.
No, I love that. And I love that you don't try to do it all in one day, right? A lot of people try to do the videos and the notes and the research and the editing, like, all in one day. And holy cow, that's a lot. I mean, I've been doing this for years, and I could just, it's a lot, and it's just sort of different pieces of your brain. So I love that you kind of share how you chunk it out and you make it a priority, just like any other, marketing or lead generation, it's got to be a priority. So I love that.
It does. Well, and that's the thing, is I think that's the one piece that a lot of people think, oh gosh, that video is the extra. Yeah. Video is the fun thing. It's the, that's
when I have time.
It's when I have time. You never have time. You never have time,
there's never a good time.
there's never. It's like, oh, I'm going to join a gym when I have time. Never going to happen.
Exactly.
But I work very hard for this overweight, out of shape body. But anyways, no,
you both.
I'm just like, I'm turning 50 next week. I'm like, I don't even care. I don't even care. It's like, I am who I am, you're
comfortable in your own skin. And like, that's part of everything we're talking about. Just
absolutely
leaning into who you are, being true to who you are, and you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea, and it's all good. Right?
It is all good. Yeah, no. And it's just, I think that, everybody does video a little different, sometimes, like, I tend to gear towards the more produced video, and that's because that's the nerd in me, that's the geek in me. Like, I like sitting down with the editing and do whatever. That's not necessary. It's not what some people are just quick, like Jesse Peters, quick, point, go, shoot, done. And that's and I think the key is to figure out where you are in that, and then schedule accordingly. And maybe you need to do 30 minutes in the morning. That's probably key, is doing it at the front end of the day, along with your other lead gen stuff. Brian Buffini talks about, calls, notes, pop-bys, like those are the core things that we do for lead generation. And when do they tell you to schedule it? First thing in the morning, before you do all those other activities, those, answering phone calls and stuff. You gotta harvest, you gotta take care of your crop, or you're not gonna be able to reap the rewards.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, Jen, we're going to keep you on for a few minutes because as you know, and as a lot of our listeners know, we continue these conversations over on our podcast. So if you're watching this over on YouTube or Facebook, we're going to wrap up this session, but shameless plug that I want you to go over to my podcast because we're going to have some bonus questions for Jen over there. And, for all of you listening who are, just wanting to get better about social media and video, we would love for you to check out our Get Social Smart Academy. You can go to katielance.com/academy. And Jen, I just so appreciate your time today. This has been so much fun chatting with you.
Yes. Yeah. Likewise. Thank you so much. I have been looking forward to this for weeks. So thank you so much for asking me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to put all of your contact information and your YouTube channel below. And those of you watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button here on YouTube, but also go over to Jen's, hit the subscribe button, check out what she's doing and watch some of her videos over there. She's putting out some really great content. So, all right, Jen, we're going to pause the YouTube and then we're going to go over to the podcast. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. All right, everybody. Again, hit subscribe. We have new videos that come out each and every week. Make sure you check out the Katie Lance podcast and check out the Academy so you can be part of the Academy family. All right, friends, until next time, bye for now.